Okay, how is everyone?
Fine.
Good, good. How have you been? How are you doing with your partial project with the UNODC video? Yes.
Very
Good,
fine.
good. So I finished checking the ones you submitted to me on Blackboard. But if you have any questions about any script that you didn't submit, just ask me and we can look into it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, this is the last weekend before you have to turn in the video. So I suggest making the video this weekend. As someone who makes videos every week, it's not something you can do in one day. Yeah. Even if you have the completed script, it takes a while, especially because, at least for me, it's one thing to write the script. It's another process to film yourself, and it's another process to edit. So doing the three things in one day is exhausting. So I suggest not going that route. Yeah. Yes. Especially because you guys are teams. Hi, Lucio. Hi, Mariana. Hi, Aranza.
Hi.
Especially because there's more than one person in every team. You should probably schedule those things. Okay. Now, by the way, next week on Monday, we'll be in the Zoom class. We'll talk about the video. So any final questions, if you want to get on Zoom and work together as a team, tell me and I'll divide you up into the teams from the video, right? And we can use the hour for that. And then on Wednesday, we're going to use the hour to work on the comic. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
How's your comic coming along?
But it's for Tuesday, right? The comic?
Wait, it's the other way around? Oh, then it's the other way around, right? So on Monday will be the comic and on Wednesday the video. Which should be, honestly, it should be final touches, like entirely final touches, because it's the last day. So it should be pretty much ready, especially considering you've been writing it for the entire semester, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, is anyone really behind, super behind and confused? Why, Fernanda? Why are you so behind and confused?
Just in the comic.
Okay. So you're not super behind. You're just behind on the comic.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Okay, we can talk about the comic now. How's it going? How's that part going?
I really don't know how to do it.
What do you not know how to do?
I mean, how will be the story? Because I don't know if I have to do it just like the history of my country, right? Or I have to like make some changes, like fantastic changes.
Why would you make changes?
No sé, may I say it in Spanish?
Sure.
Okay. Es que hubo un momento en el que dijo, no sé, okay.
Dijiste.
Que podíamos hacer como cambios en la historia.
No, nunca dije eso.
¿No?
No. Lo que dije fue que había una parte que era factual, o sea, que era de hechos, de cosas que sí pasaron, pero podía haber otra parte que fuera de leyendas y de mitos. Entonces, y que, por ejemplo, en México, si te preguntan cómo se construyó México, la parte factual es que no, pues era una colonia española que se hizo independiente, después tuvo reformas liberales y etcétera, y una revolución. Pero la parte mítica es esto de, pues había un águila sobre un nopal y llegaron los aztecas de quién sabe dónde y nadie sabe nada y por alguna razón nosotros que hablamos español y nos vestimos como occidentales somos descendientes de esa gente que vio un águila en medio de un lago y así, ¿no?
Pero no es necesario.
Y ahora ni siquiera hay un lago, pero pues lo tenemos hasta la bandera y no sé qué, o sea. Es la parte mítica, pero nunca dije que inventaran cosas, ¿eh?
Okay.
No, pero o sea, ¿es necesario poner la parte mítica o no?
La parte mítica es importante porque lo que se pide en el cómic es hagan de cuenta lo que hicieron el lunes, en la actividad de State Building, ¿no? O sea, una parte es lo de nación, de la cultura, cómo se creó, la comunidad, cómo se convirtió en una nación, que esto fue toda la primera parte, ¿no? Cómo decidieron cómo es historia, cómo decidieron su himno nacional, cómo decidieron su bandera, etcétera. Pero aparte está la parte del Estado, ¿no? Que fue la segunda que hicieron, de cómo decidieron quién toma las decisiones, cómo decidieron cómo hacer las cosas, cómo decidieron quién estaba a cargo, etcétera. Pero son esas dos cosas, es lo que hicieron el lunes, pero para un país de verdad, ¿no? Ahora sí. ¿Sí? ¿Alguien más? ¿Sí? ¿Quedó claro?
O sea, state building sería lo de escoger quién gobierna y así, ¿no?
Ajá. Entonces, o sea, es importante para hablar de quién gobierna y todo, pues tienes que establecer quiénes son los que están ahí involucrados. Y para hacer eso tienes que hablar de cómo se creó la nación, de cómo se hizo este grupo de gente que de alguna manera dijo, oye, alguien debería gobernarnos, ¿no?
Ujú.
Entonces, pues, es lo que hicieron el lunes, básicamente. Excepto lo del huracán y lo de los inmigrantes, o sea, todo es lo del lunes.
Profe,
¿Sí, Jesús?
entonces sería como la historia de cómo se creó ya resumidamente el país.
Sí. Ah, tú me mandaste un mensaje, tú no entendías nada de ese
No.
y tomó 2 semanas que me dijeras, ¿verdad? O sea, no. Pero sí, o sea, es lo que hicieron el lunes, pero para un país de verdad.
Ok,
¿Vale?
gracias.
Ahora, eso requiere ciertas decisiones, porque, por ejemplo, creo que no es en este grupo, pero hay alguien que le tocó Francia y que estaban así de que hablando de Carlomagno y de los galos y así como yéndose súper atrás en la historia. Y yo así de, bueno, ok, o sea, está bien, va, pero necesitas tomar cierta decisión de en qué momento empiezas la historia para llegar a la Francia actual, que es de lo que estamos hablando. ¿No?
Okay.
¿Alguien tiene alguna duda específica de ese proyecto? Así de que digan, no, mi país, no manches, no encuentro nada.
¿Tiene que ser a colores?
Sí. Bueno, no, o sea, si lo quieres hacer en blanco, en gris, en escala de grises, adelante.
Okay.
Muy artístico, film noir, adelante.
Escala de grises se refiere a lápiz, ¿no?
Sí, o sea, si lo quieren hacer con lápiz y carboncillo, adelante, supongo. O sea, no. No voy a ahogar su arte.
Son
¿Sí?
puros dibujos, ¿verdad?
Sí. Ernesto, ¿tenías una pregunta?
Que si vamos a checar hoy lo del cuestionario.
Yes. I was just finishing up the section with questions about the comic. Any other questions about the comic? No. Now, the thing is, this comic is 20% of the partial, but remember, this partial is only 15%. Yeah. What you should so don't get stressed about it. What you should, if you want to get stressed about the final parts of the semester, because that's like 55%. Yeah. Yeah. So think of the final project, think of the final exam, think of the final activities. But right now, it's not about getting stressed. Sure, it's 20%, or sure, the activities are 70%, but it's a tiny percentage because we only had like 2.5 weeks of this partial. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? No. Areli, any questions? I can see you on your phone. It's literally like in the classroom. Con la cámara prendida. Así. It's okay. It's okay. Not judging. We don't judge here. We respect diversity, right? Right, everyone?
Yes.
Yes, diversity. Okay. Lucio, we respect diversity. Now, let's focus on the questionnaire. Now, the entire point of these questionnaires is kind of to force your hand into doing some active reading on your own and then to use the information, right? Because the thing is, it's not that we wouldn't do this in class because we're looking at the same topics and doing kind of the same activities, but now we're kind of forced to be in a situation where you have to try to do it on your own and then I help you, which arguably is better, I'd say. I think that part of this whole situation is better because at least now we can go into the real discussion in class and not be like, okay, let's use the first half of the class for me to be like, ¿alguien sabe qué es Estados Unidos? Right? So the first couple of questions is a table. It says fill out the following chart, but applying the concepts to the following cases. Only use a maximum of 4 lines of text per square. So this table is the same one in a video. Did anyone watch the video?
Which one?
Yeah.
Which one? Which video has the table?
Ah, the one of the guy that.
They all have guys, which is bad.
Yes,
I wish there were more women.
The The one that talks about the absolutism.
Absolutism versus what?
Not absolutism.
No, there's a word.
Constitutionalism.
Yes, Carla, good. Constitutionalism. So the issue here is we were working with a differentiation of how states did things, right? Remember my video?
Yes.
What was the differentiation?
A legitimate state is the right thing to do morally,
A legitimate state tries to justify its actions as the right thing to do, correct?
and de facto state makes stuff happen. Just like
With what?
Violence.
With power.
Force.
Violence.
No, I mean, yes, violence, but not necessarily violence from the beginning. It's mostly force and the threat of force. It's not just I kill you to make things happen. It's I could kill you and no one's going to do anything, right? The thing is, governments, even the most authoritarian ones, are not really in the business of killing everyone. Not everyone, right? They need people to do stuff. Yeah. So it's more the threat of force. Now, the thing is, Tom Ritchie in his video makes another differentiation. Not because the one we were working on is political, right? We were talking about politics or political science, really. And Tom Ritchie makes a historical differentiation between absolutism and constitutionalism. So they're similar, but not the same. So what's the difference between absolutism and constitutionalism?
That in the absolutism, the government has all the power and has no limits.
What type of government is it?
Facto state.
Absolute.
So government has all the power. What else?
Absolute. I
need a sentence. I wrote it in Spanish. No.
They have arbitrary laws.
Arbitrary what?
Laws.
Arbitrary laws? Kind of. I mean, it's not that they're arbitrary, but the only justification they need is that the king wants them, right? That's it. Now, you have 5 different characteristics here. Any others? So in the government power, the government has all the power. The laws are arbitrary, right? Because the only justification they need is that the king wants them. That's it. What else?
Taxation by decree.
Why?
What?
What did you say?
Taxation by decree.
What does that mean? I need a sentence.
That they put taxes without permission and consent of the people.
Yes, very good. So taxation works by decrees, which means the leader of the government, usually a king because it's absolutism, when he wants a new tax, he just says, hey guys, we got a new tax. Not asking anyone's permission, not having to pass it through any parliament or Congress, not having to follow any laws, right? If a king in an absolute monarchy wants to put a tax on, I don't know, windows, he can be like, guys, there's a new tax on windows, deal with it. And everyone, what does everyone else do?
Follow.
Yeah, could they be like, you know what, we don't like this tax, we'll vote for a new king?
No.
Not really. Right? Yeah. So anything else? Are there any representative bodies?
No, there isn't representative body.
There what?
There isn't any kind of representative
no
body.
Representation. Now, if there's no representation in an absolute monarchy, why did France in the French Revolution have the Estates General?
Because
the kings were despotas.
Yeah.
Not sure what you mean.
I mean that in that time some kings were despotas. I mean that despots, but and that they comprehend the new thoughts of the time of the Enlightenment.
Okay, no. So, but the thing is, we're talking about different things here. You're talking about the illustrated despots, right?
Yes.
Well,
Did we talk about this in class?
no.
No.
We didn't bring it up? Because the thing is,
No.
remember in the Enlightenment, there was consequences for the people in general, right? People in general were like, now we have an individual perspective, we have rights, we can fight for our rights, and we can fight our own government if we don't like it. However, the Enlightenment also had consequences for the people in charge, the kings and queens, right? And the kings and queens were also thinking, you know, I also have an individual perspective, I can also be rational, I can also make decisions that make more sense, right? So the illustrated despots were the ones that were kings and queens, but they were and they were absolute. They had no representation to answer to or anything like that. But they were trying to handle their government in a rational way. Yeah, which was different. It wasn't all about what they felt anymore. Now, but that's different from what I'm asking. I'm asking why, if there's no representation in absolutism, why did the absolute monarchy in France have the Estates General in the French Revolution? Remember the context. What was the context in which they called this the Estates General? Check your notes.
To consent, I mean, they had to like agree, all of them, the three states, the common,
No, but not answering the question. I'm asking why did they have them if there was no representation? Now, think of it this way. Were the Estates General something that existed all the time? Did the king always have to deal with them?
No.
No?
Well, no.
Yeah, no, definitely not. Right? Remember the context, right? Do you remember anything about the French Revolution? Yeah. Anyone?
Yeah.
Tough crowd. No one. What? Martin, you were going to say something?
Yeah. Well, the context is that they start to have pensamiento propio, ¿cómo se decía? Well,
thinking on their own?
No, it wasn't a specific word. I can't remember it.
Individual perspective.
Individual perspective.
Lo que dije.
Uh-huh.
Factor tech.
But what does that have to do with this?
Well, the people start to ask things to the king, and the king actually had some influences of the ilustraciones, bueno, del periodo de la ilustración, of the Enlightenment. Yeah.
But what does this have to do with the representation? No.
Well, wait. So he said, let's do this so everyone could be like happy. But
yeah, exactly. Very good. So the thing here is the Estates General were pretty much a decree. Yeah, they were a decree, which means the king was just like, hey, let's do this, you know?
But why?
But why what?
Why did he want to do that?
Anyone remember French Revolution? Anyone?
There were taxes, maybe?
Not sure what you mean. Does no one remember?
The people were a little bit angry with the king.
Yeah.
So
remember there was no money left, and the people were not cooperating, right? And Louis XVI was pretty sure that they needed to raise taxes, but there was no way he could do it because the nobles were not letting him, right? The nobles and the clergy.
Yeah.
So he was like, you know, fine, let's get in this Congress and try to decide things. Let's try to agree on something. Yes? Anyone?
Yeah.
Okay, finally, how does sovereignty work?
What?
How does sovereignty work?
There was a monarch.
Are you guys looking at your questionnaire right now?
Yes.
Yes.
There was
Good.
a monarch.
The last part of the chart.
There was a monarch.
And what does that mean? What did it explain?
Not everyone.
That the people couldn't choose.
What?
That the people couldn't choose, only the monarch.
So the monarch
Alguien tiene el
decisions
sonido muy...
came from the monarch. Yeah. Now, the entire point of this is that when we talk about the other type of government, constitutionalism, what's the difference? How does the government power work?
limited because of the Constitution.
So power is limited by the Constitution. Now, what does this mean in practice?
That you have to respect what the Constitution say, and you have to, if you want to approve a law, you have to present it to the whole Congress or Parliament. For to do that.
Yeah, basically, think of it this way. You have a constitution that says people who are born in this country are citizens. So that includes men and women. Now, there comes a president who says, I'm putting a tax on being a woman. So all women have to pay this tax just because I say so. Could he do that in a constitution, under this constitution?
No.
No.
They have rights.
Why not?
Because they have rights.
No, because they have to go through a
process.
A process. Yes.
A process, and also the whole point of a constitution is that a country gets together and says, we're a country, and some of these things we agree on are not negotiable, right? The whole point of a constitution is that certain things are not negotiable, cannot be changed, right? So that's why constitutions are usually very general in their language and also point out certain things that should guide other rules, right? Now, the thing is that for us as Mexicans, this is kind of difficult to understand because the Mexican Constitution in particular is very complex, very specific, and also at the same time, very general. So it doesn't really apply to us. We'll talk about that later. But in general, a constitution is supposed to write things down that are not negotiable. Yeah?
But it's a legitimate state if not everyone has their own vote. I mean, if some people can select the things, but not everyone can be a legitimate state if it
We're not
has
talking about
a
legitimate
process.
states. We're talking about constitutions.
No, but it's a question.
Well, let's not get confused. We'll get into that in a minute. Okay. So if I go into that right now, someone in the group is gonna be like, ya no entendí nada, right?
Okay.
So 1 second. Now, how do laws work in a constitutional government? We're going really slow, guys. I need you to turn it on. What?
Yeah, like they work for everyone.
What?
That they work for everyone.
Work for everyone?
They're general.
Okay, general laws.
It applies for everyone. Is what Teresa was
okay. I wasn't understanding. I'm sorry. Good, very good. So what's the difference between arbitrary laws and general laws?
Like everyone agrees on the law, well, or mostly everyone, and it's not just because the king says so.
Yeah, very good. So basically, if there's going to be a law, we need to at least have a decent notion that everyone is okay with it, right? That's why we have a Congress that represents a bunch of people, and if they're like, yeah, okay, we agree, we can assume the people they represent are also okay with it, right? Doesn't always work, but that's kind of the point. Now, taxation. How does taxation work?
Wait. In the video, in the part of general laws, they put common laws. Is that okay too?
Kind of the same. Yeah, that's what it means.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, taxation, how does it work?
If they want to put,
If they want to what?
if they want to put a new tax, if they want to put a new tax, the parliament has to approve of it.
Yes, very good. So instead of just doing whatever they want, they need people to approve it. Finally, representation and sovereignty, how do they work?
They have representation, and it can be from, for example, in the Congress of the United States, they have the senators, well, the congressmen. They have them to represent some specific parts of the population of the United States, and to work for their own benefits.
Okay, very good. Excellent. And sovereignty?
The people.
Sentence, please.
The people has the power.
Decisions are made by the people. Now, does this mean everyone gets to make decisions for the government?
No.
What does it mean?
No, that they have the right to choose.
Okay, so the point here is for decisions to be made, the people have to be taken into account. So maybe not everyone is going to be happy with every decision all the time, but they need to be taken into account, right? Different viewpoints have to be considered. Yeah?
Okay.
Now, the connection here we are making is with de facto states and legitimate states. Does anyone know no. Does anyone know the connection? Are absolute states de facto or legitimate?
De facto.
De facto.
Can there be a legitimate absolute state?
No.
I think that it depends.
On what?
Because we're talking about the 6, right?
6?
The question?
No, not yet. Right now, we're trying to fill out the charts.
I know, so.
No, a facto state. No, I mean a legitimate state can be absolutist because the absolutist is a government based on one people or.
So then why is it legitimate? I need an explanation.
No, it is an.
It cannot be legitimate because it has one person in charge. Okay, but what's the connection between that and the definition of legitimate state?
Well, there isn't a process to make things happen.
They what? The process? What verb did you use?
What?
What did you say? Can you repeat that?
Okay. There isn't a process to make things happen.
Okay. Well, there is a process, but it's very short, right? Now, the thing is, what what is an absolute government missing to be legitimate?
The participation of the people?
Not necessarily.
To morally justify their
actions? Yes, Ernesto, very good. They're missing a moral justification, right? Because the thing is, I mean, if we're going to get philosophical, in philosophy, you have to consider all possible scenarios, even if they've never happened. There could be a scenario where you have an absolute monarch who is also very morally inclined and very sentimental and very much a very morally, ethically minded person. But at the same time, people are flawed. People have flaws. You know what a flaw is?
Yeah.
What is it?
Yes.
Sentence?
A flaw is like a part of your personality that is not like very well built.
Yeah, people are imperfect, right? So the whole point of a legitimate state is that we take moral issues into consideration, and we can't do that individually, right? Morality is always related to other people. So since absolutism is only centered on one person, we can say it is always de facto, right? Because the issue is, even if you have a king who is very morally inclined and very much into working things rationally, at the same time, if he's not listened to, he can just be like, I don't care. I don't care that you disagree. I don't care that you think this is wrong. We're going to do it, right?
Right.
Now, at the same time, in a constitutional government, are constitutional governments always legitimate?
No,
No? Why not?
because not all of them justify their moral actions.
Because what?
Not all of the constitutional states
Okay.
justify their actions morally.
Yeah, very good. So it's possible to have these characteristics of a constitutional government, but still not look to justify things morally, right? So in here we can say it's sometimes legitimate. Yeah. Now, after this super long explanation, we have two examples: the United States of America in 1866. So right after the American Civil War, right? Yes. And we have the Kingdom of France in 1714, way before the French Revolution, during Louis XIV's government. So, what type of government, in terms of absolutism and constitutionalism, could we say the United States of America in 1866 was?
Constitutionalism.
Definitely, super constitutional.
No.
Yes.
No, because the woman aren't.
No, but we're not talking about legitimacy. We're talking about constitutionalism versus absolutism.
Okay.
Definitely constitutional. Okay. There's no absolute monarch in the United States.
Well, that's true. Well,
yeah. No, honestly, this is not debatable. It's like a fact, right? Now, similarly, Kingdom of France, 1714, is it constitutional or absolutist or absolute?
Absolute.
Definitely absolute. There's no constitution. Absolute monarch. Does anyone know the famous phrase that is attributed to Louis XIV?
No.
No? You don't know?
You know?
Yes. L'état, c'est moi.
Oh,
yeah.
The state is me.
El estado soy yo.
Yeah. And what does it mean to say that the state is me?
That I have all the power.
That he is the state.
I can do.
That he was the only one that could control the state.
Yeah, because remember, in my video, I talk about this, right? What is a state?
The one of the color of the community and that thing.
What?
It's government.
It's any type of government.
Any type of government structure. So in Louis XIV's time, the government structure was what he said it was, literally, right? So when he was saying the state is me, he wasn't being profound. He was saying something true at the time in his context. Yeah?
Yeah.
Sure, a question.
Yes?
Why does the monarchs and all of that endure so long? I mean,
what? You cut off at the beginning. What was your question? Can you repeat it?
But why the monarchies endure so long? I mean, what was the thing that moved? For example, I mean, yes, the monarch, but the monarch has like subjects, right? And he orders them what to do with the state. I mean, he does not do it by himself, you know?
I don't understand your question. What's the question?
Can I say in Spanish?
Yes.
O sea, ¿qué obligaba a los súbditos del rey a hacer lo que él decía?
Wow.
Me refiero, ¿por qué duró tanto la monarquía?
Eso lo decía en el video.
Yes, in a de facto state, what forces people to obey?
Instituciones.
What?
Instituciones.
No.
Y tradiciones.
Oh, the strength of the military.
La fuerza.
Of the military power that they have.
Literally force, right? Now, the thing is, it's not just direct threats like to each individual, like, I will use violence against you unless you do what I say. But who had an army? Not everyone, right?
Yeah.
The government, and the government was in charge of the king.
Yeah,
I mean, the king was in charge of the government.
but I mean, can we say like the loyalty to the king was one of the facts because of the king was respected? I mean, if there were no loyalty,
I think I think it was a factor, but mostly in practical terms, it's the characteristic of a de facto state. Anyone disagree?
maybe no,
No? Yes?
I agree.
Okay. Now, so this part took a while, but now, the thing about legitimate and de facto states is that it's not what a country is. It's not about what a characteristic of what a state is in itself, but it's about what the state does. It's about its actions, right? Now, absolutism and constitutionalism are about what the state is. It's what they are. But de facto and legitimate states are what they do. Yeah?
Yeah.
Do you see the difference?
Yes.
Okay.
Think of it this way. It's like, it's one thing to dress like a woman, no matter what you are, but it's another thing to be a woman, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So if you have a drag queen, they're dressing like a woman, even if they maybe don't identify as one, but that's different from being a woman, right?
Okay.
Now, here in the next few questions, we talk about, well, the next two questions we talk about, was the United States a legitimate state while slavery was legal in certain states? So before 1866, before the American Civil War? And we ask, was the United States legitimate while excluding women from being citizens for not being allowed to own property, which was about way into the 20th century, like until the 1920s, right? So here we're being asked to make a judgment. Was the United States legitimate while slavery was legal in certain states?
It depends.
On what?
Because the United States was divided in North and South.
Mm-hmm.
In North, it was like a factor for them, for the South to have slavery as legal.
Mm-hmm.
But the South has their own reasons, maybe moral reasons, that why they have slavery.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all.
I mean, but part of the discussion about the American Civil War is that there was a moral argument to maintain slavery, but there were not moral reasons to have slavery, right?
Yeah.
So the moral argument to keep slavery was mostly economic, remember? It was the entire economy of the South of the United States depends on slavery, so it would be immoral to take that away from them. But there was no moral justification to have slavery, right? It wasn't like we have slaves because we're doing the right thing.
But it was legal.
It was legal, yes, but that's different. Yeah. Now,
so it is not.
I think.
Yeah, Martin?
I think it could be a legitimate state because the government tried to justify their actions, like you said.
Well, the thing is, at least in terms of not going into the conflict, because they knew it would be a conflict. They knew there was going to be a huge war over this.
About
right?
the economic.
So for a long time, they were like, maybe the right thing is to maintain the peace, try to build our country, and allow them to have their slaves for now, right? So that could be a moral justification. Because remember, it's very important to judge these things in the context that they are. Yeah? You can't, because nowadays we have human rights, we have the United Nations, we have UNODC telling us that slavery is something we have to fight, right? Human trafficking, slavery, right? But at the same time, you can't use today's standards to judge something that happened 150 years ago, right? because back then the considerations were different. Ernesto, you have a question?
No. So then, considering
Más que mi
that
pregunta, tengo
in that time
comentario.
the slaves, yeah, considering that in that time the slaves, the black people were not considered like human beings, no, or maybe they were just considered like parts of their masters, you know. So then we can say that the United States was actually legitimate.
I don't understand your question.
No es una pregunta, o sea, es como una afirmación.
Ah,
o sea,
okay.
pensando
So,
que en ese tiempo, si los negros no eran, o sea, no contaban como personas y ellos trataban de hacerlo moralmente correcto, podemos decir que sí era un estado legítimo.
What does everyone think?
I think yes.
Yes.
I agree.
Now,
Yeah.
the thing is,
No,
we're saying, so Ernesto is telling us, when slavery was legal, it was because slaves did not count for the law, and the law was trying to do the right thing for the people that counted for it, right? So
Yeah.
back then, and he's saying back then that would be legitimate, right? Because at the time, the United States was explicitly trying to do the right thing. Now, if this happened nowadays, if we had a state that said, so black people don't count, so we want to do the right thing for all the white people, would that be legitimate nowadays?
No.
No.
Why not?
Because we, as you said, we now have like human rights.
Yeah, we have different considerations entirely, right?
Yeah, and nowadays like discrimination is like being kind of treated.
Now, similarly, in the next question, the question is similar, but different considerations. Was the United States a legitimate state while excluding women from being citizens for not being allowed to own property?
No.
Why not?
Because they were considered as part of the country, and they were just telling the women to stay at home, and they didn't give any choice like to own property or something.
Yeah, so the thing is, here we have a different consideration where the women were actually counted in the law, because white women specifically, right? White women were counted in the law, but at the same, and they had laws applied to them, right? They had certain duties towards the government, but at the same time, they could not vote.
Yeah.
And
so it is kind of related with the law.
What?
It is all related to the law.
Yes. It's about the justification we can find in the law, right? So here, women were not allowed to vote because they were not allowed to own property. And the reason they were not allowed to own property was what was it?
Because they were meant to stay at home.
I mean, not specifically that. That came later, right? Remember the video about the cult of domesticity? Did you see that one? It was from Friday.
Yes.
It was called
because they only see women as o sea, como a source of love or something.
So the thing is, the cult of domesticity, this whole idea that women belong in the home, came later, right? That was later on what they were supposed to do. But at the same time, women were very important because they were the ones raising the men who would make all the decisions, right? So because women were raising all the men who were making all the decisions, it made sense that women were entitled to education, to health services, to have a say over the government, right? And at the same time, they were like, but wait, we have to do all these things, but we can't vote? It doesn't really make sense, which is different because it's different from the issue with slavery, because with slavery, you're entirely excluding this group of people. They were not taken, they did not count. Yeah. Okay. Now, I'm not saying sexism is worse than racism. Not what I'm saying. Yeah. What I'm saying, anyone? Are you listening? Bueller? Anyone? Yeah. So what I'm saying is it's different when you exclude an entire group of people, and it's a different question to say, okay, so should slaves count? Should we take Black people into account in general? That's different from kind of taking women into account and giving them obligations, but then not letting them participate the same way as other citizens. Yeah? Anyone confused? Arely, are you listening? I see Facebook on your glasses.
No, no estoy viendo Facebook.
It's okay. Okay. Any questions?
No.
Okay. And finally, the last question is pretty easy, right? Now, I hear you're typing.
Yeah.
Not sure why you're typing. This is not an essay question. So yeah, everyone clear?
Yes.
Yes. Any questions?
Yes.
Yeah. So then in the chart, we just have to put what there is in the video?
No. What do you have to put in the chart? What is the chart asking?
Like, I don't know. It says that
Read the chart. Read the chart.
Apply the concept of the following cases.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to decide if it's absolutist or not.
Uh-huh. But then you have to apply. So you have to describe specifically for that case what is absolute or constitutional about it.
Okay.
So the thing is, in the video, Tom Ritchie is not applying the concept. He's defining the concept, right? He's saying absolutism is like this, constitutionalism is like this. But in the chart, what you have to do is say the United States in 1966 had this, France in 1714 had this. Yeah? You see the difference?
Yes.
Okay. Well, if there are any questions, I'll see you on Monday. Take care.
Bye. Take care.